I want to make sure we are. Okay. I want to, Lindsay, would you like to share with us just briefly kind of how you found here or what got you here sharing today?
Sure. Yeah, well, it's so appropriate that my interest in essential oils or my beginning of using them happened when I was pregnant with my daughter. She's now 2.5. So it's been about 3 years now. And I remember going to my first doctor's visit for, my first pregnancy. It's all brand new. And my doctor handed me an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And she said, all of these medications on this paper are not safe for you to take while you're pregnant. And this thought crossed my mind, okay, well, why are they safe when I'm not pregnant? And as moms, we want the best for our kids. There's just something that sort of kicks in when you know that there's a little one on the way. And you're like, I want the best. I want the safest things for my baby. And I want to be also empowered as a mom. I don't want to feel powerless. I don't want to feel hopeless when it's 2 o'clock in the morning and my baby's tugging on her ear and I think that she might have an ear infection. I don't want to feel helpless and just watch her be in pain and not be able to go to the doctor and have to do all of that. I want to have a solution right in the moment. And I found that with doTERRA and in learning how to use oils. And if you're a newbie on here this morning and this may seem a little overwhelming to you, don't be overwhelmed. Just one step at a time, and everybody starts somewhere. Everyone starts as a beginner. And I tell the funny story about how I poured half a bottle of peppermint on my husband's head when I first started using oils, which is so not what you want to do. But you can figure it out. It's very, I love that essential oils are very intuitive. As a mother, we have that intuition. We're given that God-given intuition, and really trust that voice and really listen to that as you're caring for your family, as you're caring for your little ones. And you're probably here today because you have listened to that voice inside of you go, you know what, I want to care for my babies naturally. And I want to have a natural pregnancy and a natural birth. So I'm really excited that you're here.
Yes. Thank you, Lindsay. I know there are other moms who were shaking their heads exactly as you were, just because that resonates with me fully.
Oh, yeah.
And I know Dr. Boyd will share when she jumps on too and she's jumping on living in mom life. She's jumping on from her son's baseball game. So, that's what we're talking about today. The sacrifices that we're making as moms, right? Dr. Boyd, I'm talking about you saying how when we're living the mom life, we're jumping on and we're making sacrifices and doing things as we go. So, and it's actually perfect timing if you can hear us, Dr. Boyd, and I love your Saturday attire because it's so mom. I'm wearing red lips in honor of moms today, to try to feel like girls and feel pretty again. Can you hear me okay, Dr. Boyd? I don't know if she can hear us yet.
Looks like she's typing.
We can see you, but we can't see you. Do you what?
Is she muted?
Let's see. No. Can you hear us okay, Dr. Boyd?
So while we're trying to figure that out, I want to know, for those of you who are on with us, how many of you are pregnant? If you could type, I kind of want to know where everyone's at. Oh, there she is. Okay,
guys. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. So anyway, I was at a baseball game, if you can't tell, and I was asked to keep score, and I was so busy keeping score that time got away from me. So maybe I need some focus blends or something. So anyway, where are we?
You know what? Actually, it's perfect timing, exactly perfect timing, because we're talking about being in the trenches of mom life, and Lindsay just finished sharing about how she found herself here in this webinar series, and we were just about to talk about you jumping in from your son's baseball game to share with us how you found yourself here too. So it's perfect timing.
Okay. Well, I really, again, found myself in the oil world related to my child, but he was a little bit older than a baby. And so from the standpoint of starting to use oil, he's a special needs kiddo. And so I started doing all sorts of different diet changes and nutritional things, and of course medications as well, and was really trying to limit his medications. And so from the standpoint of looking for alternatives, someone asked me, hey, would you be willing to try essential oils? And I said, well, yeah, I'm willing to try anything as long as it won't hurt him. And so from there, went to my first class with Veronica Ackley at Jim and Amy Miller's house. And that was the first time I got to meet them. And so started using oils with him and expanded that to using myself. Started using them in the practice as well with my patients. So it's just been a real gift to learn more and to become much more holistically minded. I was pretty holistically minded in the first place, but I got lots of tools in the process instead.
I love that. Well, again, we're honored to have you again. And I love that you're in baseball Saturday gear. People like to, people need to see physicians looking like, like us, like moms. And so I love that you present such expertise, but at the same time, you're a mom, you're coming in from the Saturday baseball game. So I love that. We have learned so much from Dr. Boyd over the last few years. So we're so glad that you're on with us as well. And so let's just jump right in. We've been talking about fertility and pregnancy, and now we're talking about the birthing process. Okay. So what are some different ways that we can use oils during the birthing process so that maybe they kind of have the effect on the whole environment around us? Dr. Boyd, you want to share that or
Sure.
Actually,
I really like
too, but go ahead.
Yeah, I really like diffusing for that reason. It is very helpful in kind of making everybody in the whole room a little more peaceful. Mom, of course, being the primary person, but then even beyond that, it'll help the birthing partner. It will help the nurses, the doctors, the staff. It's just lovely. I have lots of patients when they use aromatherapy that there's lots of comments from the staff going, oh my gosh, I just love going into that room. And so it's just great in uplifting everybody and making it just a more positive experience overall. In addition, there's some blends that are recommended. Lindsay said her favorite was Balance and Wild Orange combined. And the other was a combination. You can see there on the screen what the recipe is, I believe. I can't see the screen right now, so I'm hedging my bet.
Yes.
So what I actually ended up adding was that dividing it into active labor versus transition. For those of you who haven't had children before or just aren't familiar with the terminology, active labor is that stage where you're going from 0 centimeters up to usually about 6 or 7, sometimes 8 centimeters. And then you end up going what's called transition, which is the last few centimeters up to complete or 10 centimeters dilated. And those contractions get typically a lot closer together, a lot more painful, and you go quicker and from there. So that's why I had 2 different recommendations, one for active labor and one for what we call transition.
Yeah, I was the favorite patient. I don't know if that's what we're called, but when I gave birth to him, I had my diffuser going, and every time the nurses or the staff would walk in, they would just go, oh, it's so relaxing in here. It's so nice in here. And it was just really a wonderful experience, because that hospital smell can be kind of, not very welcoming sometimes. Like it's not the best smell when you're going through it, and diffusing is awesome.
Yes, yes. I agree. Since I didn't get to use, I had not been introduced to doTERRA when I was in labor, but I do have friends who've been in the hospital when they've diffused. It's like everybody on staff wants to come to that room, have excuses to come to that room because it's relaxing or it smells great in there. So, and if you mom's going to take a screenshot of any of these recipes, feel free to do that. This is the active phase mist listed here, and then transition too. Okay.
And the mist can be the mists, Amy, putting them in a spray bottle. So a diffuser is running throughout the room, but a mist is like something you would mix in a spray bottle, and you can just sort of spray in the room, or if you're laying down, you can mist it on your pillow.
Okay.
Something like that, to where it's kind of more, you know, you can spray it on your body. So I used both. I diffused, and the misting is nice too, especially if you're warm.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It really just helps cool mom off and calm her down. It can ease pain and help with nausea with the misting. So one other term that I had put on the slides, I'm just now seeing the slides, you guys, from my printout, was what is second stage, just so that we all are on the same page with the terminology. Second stage is pushing. And so you want more energy at that point, because you're actually having to do some work to push our little baby out. And so that's a more energizing mist, or energizing diffusion. And then active phase versus transition, that's where I put those terms for the misting.
Okay. That helps. So, Lindsay, I know you had some experience with what also you used on either some acupressure points or reflex points.
Or reflexology, as they're also called, but there are some points you can Google it if you look up, reflexology points or acupressure points. I would try to lift up my leg here and show you. Maybe I can't, but it's on the inside of your ankle. Like if you put your hand this way, like if your ankle is, right here under your pinky, and you wrap your hand around your shin, up right above your hand right here is where that acupressure point is going to be, on the inner ankle and on the outside too. Right, Dr. Boyd? That's what we did.
That's correct.
So applying an oil like clary sage, which is a uterine tonic, which can promote healthy contractions. So that was something I really had my husband do, and get your birth partner involved with you in all of this. When we're talking about applying essential oils or misting or all of those things, like give them instructions to help you so that you're not doing it all.
I love that. It made a huge difference for me when I had my husband helping me.
Yes. And you know what? Let me tell you what, men need a job. Like my husband just felt, during our first birth, we didn't use a lot of oils, and feeling that helpless of like, what can I do? This is something they can do, So give them a job.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen that a lot too, Dr. Boyd, that it helps for them to
it empowers them to be part of it, because so many men, I will tell you that, labor and delivery is female dominant. And there, of course, are more and more female obstetrician gynecologists too. And so many men they feel almost a little bit displaced, because they're just absolutely surrounded by women in this very feminine ritual, if you will. And so giving them something to do to help with massage, which we'll talk more about later, empowers them to feel like they have an active role in what's going on with the baby and the delivery.
So I know for myself with my first one, stalling is sometimes a concern. Are there things that we can do to kind of help the labor move along more quickly?
Well, I definitely agree with Lindsay on the clary sage, on the reflexology points. There's also a blend that's recommended in the Stephanie Fritz book that is 2 drops of clary sage, lavender, and the women's blend, which is Whisper, you guys, just to clarify with the generic name. Sometimes people get confused between the women's blend and women's monthly blend. and you would dilute that in a tablespoon of carrier oil and put on the lower back and abdomen. That's going to get those contractions moving along if you're not already contracting well.
Yeah. And real quick, just the book she's referring to, if you're joining us new, it is an absolute must-have. Go purchase it right now. It's called Essential Oils for Pregnancy, Birth, and Babies, and it's written by Stephanie Fritz. And she's a midwife, and she uses all doTERRA, and so the book is specific to doTERRA products, and it's got tons of recipes. And yep, Noelle or Dr. Boyd is holding it up there so you can see it. That's what it looks like. But it's a tremendous resource. Everything from fertility all the way through the first, second, third trimester, birth, aftercare, all of that. It's wonderful.
Yes, yeah. So
I'm sorry if you guys are hearing my printer in the background. It will stop in a minute.
No, it's totally fine. And I typed the name of the book in the chat box for everyone too. So,
hey, while we're on the subject of books, I'm just going to also put this one in. I use that as a major resource for the research that I was doing for this, as well as the Fritz book. And this is just a flip chart that Aroma Tools puts out. That's essential oils for maternity. And it's, instead of reading a book like you would Stephanie Fritz's, it actually is a flip chart. What do I want to do? Here's the oils I use. Here's how I use them. Here's blends recommended. And so it's very helpful as well.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat box too. So when our labor's moving more quickly, though, there's typically more pain involved. And what can we do to address the pain? Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. So active labor, I recommend any of these can be very helpful, but lavender, the grounding blend, clary sage, lang lang. I know that we just said that clary sage increases usually the can increase the contractions, and you're like, well, why would I want to use that to help with the pain? Well, because it does help with the pain too. You can, if you have the ability to do a bath, do a couple drops and a couple tablespoons of Epsom and get in the bathtub. When I labored in a jacuzzi tub. Now that was long before I knew about oil, so I didn't have that benefit, but that being in the tub really is nice. You can also do massage to the hips, bottoms of the feet, and abdomen with those same oils, but diluted with a carrier oil instead of salt, right? And then using a compress, a warm compress with a couple drops of either of those oils and 1 cup of warm water and put it on the lower belly. For transition and second stage, remember that's when we need more energy. Using basil is very, very helpful, putting on the temples and the lower abdomen.
So what about if our water breaks before the labor starts? Is that a concern, and what can we do about that?
Well, the main concern with that is that could you get an infection because the water's broken for a longer period of time before labor starts, and therefore then the whole process takes longer. And so using the protective blends and oregano in a capsule internally can be very helpful, as well as then using clary sage or the blend we mentioned to get labor going. So, because our point once we break our water is that we want to have a baby. And so using a combination of those, I would recommend.
Yeah, I experienced this. So my water broke with him. And during my last birth, my water had been broken with my daughter for a certain amount of time, and I spiked a fever. And so they had to give me antibiotics because that's a sign of an infection, right? Like Dr. Boyd said. So I really wanted to prevent that from happening, because in our last webinar, I mentioned how important it was for me. I was really doing good with taking probiotics, right? Because when you give birth, the baby passes through the birth canal and they basically get all of your healthy gut flora. So you're essentially like establishing their immune system. It's so important. And when you have to take antibiotics during your birth, it wipes all of that out and it's null and void. And so it was really important for me to not have to take antibiotics if I really didn't have to. And so I did that. I took On Guard and oregano. I did 2 drops of each in a capsule, and I took it every 2 hours. And from the time my water broke to when he was in my arms, it was only about 10 hours. But doing that, I didn't end up spiking a fever or anything like that. So I was thankful.
The other point about antibiotics is that many times if you get diagnosed with an infection during labor, the baby ends up having to go to the NICU for observation and making sure that the baby's white count isn't up and all of those things, which clearly is pretty devastating for that mom-baby bonding time if the baby has to go to the NICU. So,
yeah.
That's interesting that both of you are saying that, because from an outsider looking in, it's sounding very valuable to me to be having like a whole, whether I'm laboring at home or whether I'm going to the hospital, I've got to have my toolkit ready and have my oils ready, because depending on the circumstance, I want to be armed and ready and not be thrown into a situation that I could have maybe tackled a different way if I were prepared.
Can I add something in here? Because I don't think that it's in our slide, but I feel like it's a good note to make. Mm-hmm. I know that it's very common for women to be group B strep positive, which would require antibiotics during birth, correct, Dr. Boyd?
Correct.
Yes. So in the book that we mentioned, the Stephanie Fritz book, The Essential Oils for Pregnancy, Birth, and Babies, there is a group B strep protocol in there. And you have to do it before birth. So it's something that you implement, early on. So it's worth trying. And maybe your doctor could retest you if you test positive and see if that changes things. But there is a group B strep protocol in that book. Just a little tip.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I actually was group B strep with both of mine, and handled them differently each time as I learned more. But the first time I had a 36-hour labor and had the IV antibiotics every 4 hours, and as a mom who was leaning more naturally minded, I didn't like that at all. I didn't want that. And I do believe that it did set us off on a difficult foot with my son's gut health and with mine. And it's a journey that we've had to, kind of an uphill battle that we've had to try to help reestablish gut health for him. I know we talked about, was it last night that we talked so much about gut health? Or maybe, no, it's the first
fertility night. Right. And I experienced the same thing, Amy, when I had to have antibiotics with my daughter. It totally, we both had eczema. It triggered really bad eczema on my body. It's pretty wild, the side effects from taking antibiotics.
Yeah.
Avoid them at all costs. Thank God for them when they save lives, but
I was gonna say, but they do save lives, and so we need to also keep in mind a balance. You can do everything you absolutely can to avoid it, but if it comes to brass tacks and you need it, then take it, because that's going to be the best thing for you and the baby. I will tell you, just off the cuff, this has nothing to do with pregnancy, but I used my oils and my supplements like crazy for 5 days, battling sore throat, and finally went in the head for a strep culture, and I had strep. I took the antibiotics because I wasn't able to do that with the natural remedies. And so it's not, you don't fail if you get antibiotics, okay? It's just nice to try without it. And as I just said, I tried 5 days with all sorts of craziness trying to get better and couldn't do it. So thank God for antibiotics too.
Yes. Right. And I love that you pointed that out, Dr. Boyd, because a lot of times it does go back to that wellness pyramid again. I know with a physician's life and a mom life that you have a lot of stress involved and probably less sleep, and so there's all those contributing factors that sometimes the oils can't conquer everything that we're experiencing in our life. So I love that you pointed that out too. And also we have been able to try to reestablish gut health for myself and for my son, despite the fact that we kind of started off kind of on the wrong foot with that. So And so I love that we pointed that out. And so actually thinking about all these things, sometimes frazzled is my middle name. And so I'm just having some anxious thoughts about this journey. What are some things that we can do specifically during labor time to address anxiety, anxious feelings?
I loved putting rose behind, if you are privileged enough to have the rose oil. If you don't, the women's blend, which is Whisper, we mentioned that earlier, that has rose in it, as well as jasmine and some other really feminine, really calming oils. And I just put it behind my ears. But everybody's anxiety oil, I think, is a little bit different. You just have to find an oil that speaks to you. Like that really spoke to me. But what are some that you would suggest, Dr. Boyd?
Well, I like the ones you suggested. And also Wild Orange, the Restful Blend, which is Serenity, Invigorating Blend, or Lavender. If you can put those on like perfume, just like Lindsay suggested, but you can also use them as a couple drops in a bowl of cool water and put it over the forehead or at the neck, etc., so that it helps kind of cool the brow, if you will. And also at the same time is giving mom some aromatic and topical benefit.
And, and Stephanie Spritz's book has a special blend too. Doesn't she have listed one in there?
Yeah, and this is one that's more, not so much for anxiety, but for pain, for nausea, just all of, when you're in that active labor stage. And I made this blend. And I really liked it. I just had it in a big dropper bottle, and we would just, put it on my husband's hands. He would massage it on my back, on the lower back, on my feet, on my shoulders, and I really enjoyed it. So I did more than 15 drops of carrier oil, but that's what's in hers. I put it in a bigger bottle, but I did 5 drops ylang-ylang, 4 drops helichrysum, some cypress, black pepper. If you're having back labor, is really helpful. So add that in and bring that with you. Digest Zen, some peppermint, and some clary sage. So that kind of hit all of the bases with like pain, nausea, calming. And I really enjoyed that. So you can massage it, like it says there, inner ankles, lower stomach, lower back, shoulders. It's a good massage blend during labor.
And I'm glad you mentioned that about back labor too with black pepper. I'm not sure if we have a specific slide on that. Well, actually, here's another blend. This is not the one you used, right? Right, Lindsay?
No, I think that this is a Dr. Boyd blend. This.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So this one came from the essential oils for maternity flip chart, and it has the ylang-ylang, fennel, clary sage, and peppermint. And a couple tablespoons of carrier oil, and massaging that into those same areas that Lindsay mentioned is just perfect. And as far as the Stephanie Fritz blend, I definitely agree that was a little more dilute is probably helpful.
Yeah.
Remember when you're laboring, when you're pregnant, period, but when you're laboring, you're a lot more sensitive to smells.
Right.
And so sometimes a little more dilution can go a long way. Obviously, my baseball player wants to be on camera and say hello.
Hello, Kendrick.
And then just one more thing about back labor. I know that Lindsay mentioned that black pepper is great for that, but I just wanted to explain what the usual cause of that is. So back labor is typically because the baby is facing the wrong direction. I don't mean breech, like butt down, but the face itself, instead of facing back towards mama's back, sacrum, okay, the baby's facing up, all right? So we call those babies stargazers, or OP, which is occiput posterior. Occiput's the back of your head, and it's so the back of the baby's head is to the back, and it's a lot easier to deliver babies if they're facing down, or occiput anterior. Sometimes we call those babies sunny side up. I don't like to compare babies to eggs, so I prefer stargazer. So what can you do? Well, the black pepper is great on the low back, and then shifting positions, hands and knees, what we call runner's position, which basically looks like you're about to start out at the starting gate, like at a track meet. but of course you're probably laying down. But those things can really help turn the baby to the correct position, so it's a lot easier to deliver.
I actually just was reading some interesting information on black pepper. I'm not a chemistry expert or anything, but there was some studies that are showing something about black pepper's relation to similarities that have some cannabinoid properties in that. I don't know if cannabinoids. Okay, I don't know if I was saying that correctly.
Cannabinoids.
Cannabinoids. Is that how you say it?
You're good. Marijuana, okay, marijuana. Let's just put it out there.
But it's the non-psychoactive form, so it's not like going to have the effect of like doing a drug.
But I found that interesting that it had some similar properties, and then we're talking about having it be helpful for pain management with the back labor. That's very interesting to me. Yeah. So let's move on from the pain. Let's have no more pain, and let's enjoy our little joy for a minute. So after the birthing process, and just to kind of make the transition more seamless, is there anything that we can start working through with essential oils? If there's any tearing involved or stretch, all those kinds of things, how can we address that?
But I'm going to back up one step and just say that while you're pushing, using the helichrysum and carrier oil blend is really, really good for during the second stage, because we want to minimize those tears still, even though we prepped the perineum before we ever went into labor. We want to minimize those tears. And so using the carrier oil, almost like a lube, if you will, let's just lube the baby out. But the helichrysum will really help with the bleeding and tearing as well. As far as moving into once we have our baby, is that where we're going next?
Yes.
Okay, so baby's here, yay! But unfortunately, sometimes things aren't just perfect afterwards, because your bottom hurts and you're bleeding and you're not feeling so beautiful. And so we just talked about perineal care beforehand, but now I wanted to go on to perineum care for after. And there's lots of different options here, you guys. So you kind of need to look at the options and prep ahead of time, and then pick what looks good to you. There's one that can be used in a mister bottle. So you put it with water or a carrier oil in it and mist it. The other is there's a couple options there. And then a peri rinse. So after you use the bathroom, they give you these peri bottles. If you haven't had a baby, the concept is that it looks kind of like a ketchup bottle, but it's got a few holes on the top, and you can use that to kind of rinse off the perineum afterwards. And if you add 5 to 10 drops of lavender or geranium to that water bottle for the rinse, it will really be very soothing. And then the soothing pads, these are prepped ahead of time. You add 20 drops of lavender, Roman chamomile, or geranium to a bottle of witch hazel, and then shake the mixture and put it on a large maxi and stick it in the freezer. So you kind of get your ice pack, your cooling, your essential oil application, and then the ability of things to shrink down swelling, etc., with the witch hazel.
That's great. I made a peri spray, and I don't know if my that's yours. Okay, yeah. So that's a great recipe, and like Dr. Boyd said, there's different things you can use. I use lavender, helichrysum, frankincense, and melaleuca, which is also known as tea tree oil. So I did those 4 in a spray, about the same, about 15 drops of each in a 2-ounce spray bottle. And then I topped it off with a carrier oil. So I used fractionated coconut oil rather than water. And I would rinse with water. And this is all so fresh, just a few weeks ago. Rinse with water, use that spray bottle like Dr. Boyd was saying. And then I have that spray with the carrier oil in it that I would spray over it. I really enjoyed that.
Right.
And then I made the soothing pads. I think I shared this yesterday, but you can just buy those cotton rounds and put them in a mason jar. And I love that mixture that Dr. Boyd shared with the lavender, the Roman chamomile, the geranium, and some witch hazel, and just pour that over those little pads and, you know, stick after you go to the bathroom, just put those in there, and they really help with pain and with swelling. Yeah, so that was.
And you can even put those in the freezer too, or is that what you would better to do with a pad?
Are you talking to me?
Either one, or did you do them in the freezer at all too?
I didn't do them in the freezer. I just kept a little mason jar right by the toilet with my little cotton rounds with that witch hazel mixture. And then I had my spray bottle, my Perry spray with the lavender, melaleuca, frankincense, helichrysum. But geranium, I should have totally thrown some geranium in there. That sounds wonderful. And that just really helped it to heal, because I did have some stitches. And so that really helped with the wound care and just everything healing up.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't freeze the cotton rounds because they're so much smaller. They're actually going to stay frozen for a little bit, and you're going to put something that's frozen up against the area trying to heal. Versus on the pad, it's yes, it's right there and it's going to be cooling, but it's not necessarily like going to freeze to the tissue. So cold would be fine. You could leave your mason jar in the fridge, but I probably wouldn't freeze it.
Yeah. Okay. So like the large maxi pad, or you could put them in the fridge if you just want them cold.
Right. Right.
Well, this is where I can at least chime in a little bit from here on out, because this starts some of my first experiences with essential oils and some learning experiences. But what can we do about decreased milk supply? Or Lindsay, did you have any experience with this?
Yeah, I'm cracking up that my boob juices, that's just what I call it. It's my little mixture.
I love it.
And I just made a roller ball with some fennel and some basil, and about a 10 milliliter roller ball. I think I did maybe like 10 to 15 drops of each of those, so fennel, basil. Top it off with your carrier oil, and then I just apply that directly to the breast tissue. I avoid the nipple area just because I don't think that my baby would really be crazy about that. But just kind of massaging onto the breast, and I especially notice that my milk supply, like it's good throughout the day, but sometimes in the evenings I'll notice that it dips, and then he can get a little bit frustrated, like, Mom, I want more. So to counteract that, I try, you know, in the late afternoons, I'll try to put some of that on there, or maybe even take in a capsule, some fennel and basil, a couple drops internally, just for a little boost. So that's what I do.
And I love the versatility with the oils, because I actually had a little bit different experience. I don't like to say that my first experience with doTERRA was negative, because it wasn't. We had some really positive experiences, but part of the negative, a little bit of a negative experience, or experiencing something not necessarily negative, but a learning experience really with the oils, was we were introduced in using the Breathe Respiratory Blend with our family, who was very compromised in our immune systems at the time. And so we were using that to support us. And in that process, I was using the Breathe, which has peppermint in it. And if you heard Dr. Boyd mention, I think it was last night, that we talked about how some women can have a decreased milk supply when exposed to peppermint. And some women are more sensitive than others. Obviously, I am probably one who's a little bit more sensitive, because it was affecting me even with a blend. But it was after a 2-week exposure, of consistent exposure, that with nursing and breastfeeding our twins at about 4 months of age, when I noticed a significant dip in my milk supply. And as many moms, I went into a little bit of a panic mode, like, what am I going to do? And when we discovered that it was probably the peppermint in the Breathe, as soon as I removed myself from using that, diffusing that around and using it topically, I was able to also use the essential oils as well to regain. Now, of course, I also did some pumping, extra pumping, to try to regain things. So some other things in addition to the oils, but basil and fennel were huge resources for myself. And I actually found that the fennel, applied topically, that my body responded better when I applied topically versus internally in a capsule. And so that's what I love about the versatility of oils, is you can play around with it a little bit. If you're not getting the response that you were hoping for, you can try a different delivery method and see how that affects you. But those were huge benefits for me in regaining my milk supply. And I wouldn't really say it was a negative experience. At the moment it was, because I went into panic mode, but it really was a learning experience for me to see, okay, I need to just be more careful with, you know, from here on out while I'm breastfeeding in my exposure to peppermint. So, so let's talk about mastitis or cracked nipples. Is there anything we can do for that, Dr. Boyd?
Yes, lavender can be very helpful in mastitis, but if we're going to use something with a little more kick to it, I recommend a blend that would be with melaleuca, lavender, and Roman chamomile, and adding that to 2 tablespoons of carrier oil and massaging it from the armpits towards the nipples, because that's the direction of the milk flow. Don't stop breastfeeding. Keep breastfeeding. Very, very important. And so it is something that you want to keep that milk supply coming through, and think of it as we want to get fat out of the breast, get any infection out of the breast, and whatever is in it. Some people are like, oh my gosh, then I'm giving my baby an infection. No, 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 no. What causes mastitis are the same bacteria that live on our skin. Okay, so they live on our skin. And so it doesn't hurt. Anytime the baby latches on, it can be exposed to those same bacteria, and they're not harmful to the baby. So don't stop breastfeeding no matter what, or pumping, whichever one you're doing. For the cracked nipples, I'm putting lavender, aroma chamomile, either with olive oil or sweet almond oil, just because those are easily edible, if you will, because the baby's going to be on the nipple, right? Sandalwood and myrrh may also be soothing. One thing that I do want to point out with any time you're using oils on the breast is that you want to try to wipe them off before you feed, for 2 reasons. One is, I don't know if you've ever tasted lavender or some of these, they don't taste that great. I accidentally put it in my water one day and had quite a start. Luckily, it didn't hurt me, but it was not lovely. And so the baby's not going to like it either. And our newborns are so sensitive to smell too, so that if you smell a lot like basil or melaleuca, the baby's going to be like, ugh, I don't really I'm not that hungry. And so just remember to try to get some of those oils off just a little bit before you feed, because the baby may be adverse to them.
A way that you can sort of like wipe them off too is maybe grab a tissue and just get some coconut oil on it. And kind of wipe it off that way, because using a carrier oil, it pulls it off better than like water or something.
Thank you for clarifying.
That's a great suggestion, Lindsay.
What's the best way to wipe off? Okay, good. And I'm just curious. I don't know that this was. I don't know if this is in a slide or not. But would this be a similar protocol if you also had the clogged milk ducts? I know that's something I experienced many times with my first one, was the clogged milk ducts. Was similar protocol too, or not?
I think that would be great, and then just massaging that area of the clogged duct, because certainly you're at risk for an infection when you get the clogged duct. That's what causes them in the first place. So, yes, I think it'd be great to be using that.
Okay. We talked a little bit about anxious thoughts during labor, and this is kind of more for anxiety, maybe postpartum. Does anybody want to share? Lindsay, did you have any experience with this postpartum, or?
You know what? I mean, just the normal, like, oh my gosh, what am I, how do I know what to do? Just that fear. I did not, fortunately, I did not experience like postpartum depression, but just those fears and those worries, definitely using oils to help with coping with those emotional feelings. The Joyful blend is phenomenal. Bergamot was a great one that I really enjoyed. I don't think that's on here, but bergamot triggers the body to release more serotonin, or bergamot, however you say it. And serotonin is that feel-good hormone that really, it was calming and relaxing to me. This looks like a great formula here too. So using 9 drops of lemon, some lavender, frankincense, and diffusing that throughout the day. And you can add 2 drops of the mixture to a little bit of carrier oil and wear that as perfume. And those are all great oils. And just for anxiety, like there are so many options. I know the grounding blend, balance is great. Peace, the reassuring blend is awesome as well. We've got some wonderful emotional aromatherapy oils, and it's kind of about finding your oil, you know, your happy oil, or that oil that brings you calm, you know, whatever it is. There are oils that can be uplifting, right? Like anything that's citrus in general is high in linalool, which is really uplifting and cheerful and bright. So if that's what you need, if you're feeling like down and sad and stuck, grab something citrus. And then if you're feeling high stress, high anxiety, high strung, really worried and fearful, and you need to be more calm, right? Things like lavender, frankincense, serenity, balance, those are kind of gonna bring you down. Peace, console, okay? Some of those blends are really great for that. So just think about kind of what you need, if it's an upper or a downer, so to say. But diffusing, wearing as perfume, put a drop in your hand, just rub your hands together. And sometimes I will do this. I'll just do that and like, just take a few deep cleansing breaths, and I just clear my mind. And I'm just like, I can do this. I can do this. I was created to do this. Like, I am a great mom, and my kids just need me, you know? They don't need me to be perfect. No one is perfect. And just letting that go and just being like, today, my #1 priority is to be the best mom and the best wife that I can be, and everything else can wait. And don't just leave that pressure off of yourself, and just be there for your kids, love your kids, and take care of yourself too. That's huge. Take time for self-care. I'm kind of getting off on a little rabbit trail here, but I think this is good to know, because I remember feeling, you know, just, and still, you know, he's 8 weeks old and I have a toddler. There are days where I'm like, I haven't looked in the mirror all day, and I walk by a mirror and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, what happens to me today? It wasn't until, you know, 10:30 that I was even able to do anything for myself, because I'm nursing and getting breakfast and getting kids out the door to childcare and, you know, changing poopy diapers and doing all of that. Like, that's okay. Just take a moment for yourself, whether it's just 5 minutes to just like sit there and, you know, make yourself a cup of coffee, or like send your kids to go play on their own in their room, and just really intentionally like do something for you, whatever makes you happy. My husband and I, we have something called our joy list. And this is a great exercise too, if you're married, to ask your spouse or your partner, what's on your joy list? Like, what are 10 things that bring you joy that don't cost any money? And what are 10 things that bring you joy that do cost money? And do something on your joy list every day. And knowing your spouse's joy list, and that's a whole other thing, but as a mom, do something on your joy list every day, just because it brings you joy and fills your cup, because we give and give so much, right? That's what we do as moms. And because we care, because we care fiercely. But if our cup is not full, if our cup is empty, we're not able to give as much to those that we love. And so it's so important. And, you know, take a bath. Go throw some essential oils in a bath and relax. Or something like that. You guys get what I'm saying. Take care of you, even if it's just for 5 minutes in a day, but make time for that and be really intentional with it, and use your oils, because it really helps.
For me, it was getting outside and taking a walk, even with the stroller, just breathing in that fresh air. And that, as moms, we need to be reminded that we, and even that 5 minutes can make a huge difference. It doesn't answer all the problems or anything like that, but it gives that just what you need, that you need. So, so what about, let's move on here for a minute about the lovely constipation.
Oh, yes.
We could do for that. And actually, I forgot we also have something on here for afterbirth cramping too. I don't know if anybody has to add to that, or if we can just move on from there.
Oh yeah, I did experience that pretty bad. And I really liked Aroma Touch and Roman Chamomile. I would just massage that on my belly, and that really helped. Oh, I had horrible afterbirth cramps. So that worked for me.
I had more so with the twins, and I don't know if that's something that's common, Dr. Boyd, that maybe it's more intense in subsequent pregnancies. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it was more intense for me the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets worse with each delivery.
Yeah.
That's always good news that you get to share. Okay, so what about constipation? What can we do for that?
Well, you know, we covered this in the during pregnancy stuff, and the same applies basically. So using the probiotic defense formula, which is PBSS, the Terrazyme, which is the digestive enzyme complex, lemon, ginger, or Digestin diluted and placed on the abdomen in a clockwise fashion. So the same way that your colon is supposed to work is what you want to do for constipation to move things along. Just a word to the wise, the Digestin does have peppermint in it. So if you're going to be one of those people that is sensitive to peppermint, just keep that in mind.
Well, and that you mentioned that, Dr. Boyd, too, there's so many other options out there. It's another beauty of having the oils is that there's so many that have properties that can work very similarly, that there's usually an alternative that you can go to get the same results without having to use the peppermint. And what I did was if I had to use the peppermint or a blend with it in there, I would try to use it at a time when my husband could be there and use it, or I would have it in a roller bottle and put it on their feet and rub the feet together. I know that's for babies, but in fact, what if the baby is constipated? Or can we even ask the bigger question, can we use essential oils when they're newborn? Can we use them on the baby?
Absolutely, thank goodness too.
Yes.
But the main key here is dilution. You are looking at pretty heavily diluting these oils. So 1 drop per tablespoon is the minimum dilution recommended for an infant. Sometimes they're going to be even more diluted depending on the oil itself. So specifically for constipation or even colic in the baby, the lavender, grapefruit, or ginger, again, with your heavy dilution in a clockwise direction over the abdomen is great for helping little one move the bowels, get that gas out if that's what's causing the colic, etc.
This is my favorite tool, is a roller bottle when using oils with babies. Roller bottles are your friend as moms, so that you're not mixing and diluting as you go. You've got it ready to go, because if it's not convenient for us moms, we're not going to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, for sure. And there is, doTERRA does make a line called doTERRA Touch, where they are pre-diluted roller balls. And so that makes it just so much more convenient. With my newborn, I'm making my own roller balls because they need to be diluted a little heavier. But in my opinion, after about a year or so, the Touch line is great on little ones. That's what I did. But for reference, like I just Googled how many milliliters are in a tablespoon, because 1 drop per tablespoon, it's about 15 milliliters. So if you're doing a 10 milliliter roller ball, like just 1 drop in there. Maybe 2, but yeah, that's for a newborn. Like especially if you're only using 1 oil, just do 1 drop in there for a newborn, and that's helpful.
And for those who are new to oils, that may seem like, really, can that do anything? 1 drop? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're newborns, yeah, for sure, they're very potent.
So, what about reflux? Can we do anything to help with reflux or jaundice? Do we have some protocols for those kinds of things?
Right. So for reflux, oh, I'm sorry, Lindsay.
No.
So I'll do reflux and you do jaundice. So for reflux, peppermint and fennel diluted placed on the belly button or the bottoms of the feet can help ease that a lot. It's tempting. One thing I just want to mention is make sure you don't put it anywhere where the baby can get it on its hands and then into its eyes.
Yeah.
We all know what peppermint, well, maybe all of us don't, So some people know what peppermint feels like in your eyes, and it's not good. So that's one of the reasons why we really like the belly or the bottoms of the feet, because the belly, you put it on and then you cover it up with a onesie or whatever. And the bottom of the feet, most infants aren't getting there just yet, but if a baby is reaching for its feet and touching its feet, please put socks on over the oil. So we definitely don't want any eye burns in our little bits.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for pointing that out. And I know you had some experience with potential jaundice with your little one, Lindsay, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I did. So there's something, I didn't even know about this, but it can, has to do, and maybe Dr. Boyd can clarify. Basically, my son and me, we had differentiating blood types. And so he was something called Coombs positive, which meant that his liver had a lot more work to do because it had to flush out these excess antibodies that his body was producing. Okay, and so when the liver gets kind of overloaded, then that's when jaundice can occur. Am I understanding that correct, Dr. Boyd, in a nutshell?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So we have this wonderful blend. It's called Zendocrine. It's a detoxification blend of essential oils that really support healthy liver function. And so I used Zendocrine, and I just did 1 drop in a roller ball, and every diaper change, I would apply it to his feet. And the doctors were astounded that he did not develop jaundice, because when the baby is Coombs positive, they're very high risk for that. And he didn't get any jaundice at all. And so just, like, I don't know if it was the oil or if he just got lucky, but just knowing that I was giving his body that tool to just help promote that healthy liver function, I'm just glad I was able to do that. But getting outside, getting them in the sun, you'll hear that. Anything else for jaundice that you have, Dr. Boyd?
Well, even just straight lemon oil is great for it. But one thing I do want to make sure of is if your baby does have a diagnosis of jaundice and they're going to use the phototherapy, what looks like an infant tanning bed, in my opinion, remember that your citrus oils can be photosensitizing. So don't use those within half hour either of having the UV therapy or having had or getting to the UV therapy, because we don't want to give the baby a sunburn because we put
That's a great point.
sensitive oil on them.
That's a good thing to take note of. And so what about also circumcision care with little boys? Is there something we can do there?
Yeah, I just use that Peri spray blend that I mentioned earlier with the lavender, frankincense, melaleuca, helichrysum. I just did a really, a diluted form in a spray bottle, just like 1 drop of each. And I just sprayed that and lots of Vaseline. I'm not normally a Vaseline person, but it was necessary.
We actually had an unpetroleum jelly that we used. I didn't have it
I should have done more research.
Yes. And then what about, is there something we can also do with the umbilical cord, the stump and the care around that? Dr. Boyd?
Well, the myrrh and the frankincense, using that diluted around the cord daily until it falls off. If there's bleeding from the site, use the dilute helichrysum instead. I know we're running over a little bit, but I just want to mention something from other classes that I've taught. And this one has to do with the oils of the Bible. And you all know, if you are a Christian, that Jesus has brought the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And frankincense is really considered the oil of the Father, both the Heavenly Father and the earthly Father. So one of the things that Dad can especially do for bonding with the baby is anointing the crown of the baby's head with 2 drops of the dilute frank. Again, 1 drop in a tablespoon. The thing that mom can do is use myrrh. Myrrh is considered the oil of the mother, whether that be the earthly mother or the mother earth. So anointing the umbilical cord with that dilute myrrh and 2 drops on the spine does help bond them. One of the things I just love about that is it just really helps firm up those attachments. And of course, where mom was connected to the baby originally was at the umbilical cord. And so just bringing that all together, I just think is just a lovely moment. I wish I could have done it with my kiddos, but I wasn't using oils back then. So, and you can repeat that through that first week of life to improve attachment.
I love that you shared that, Dr. Boyd, because what a beautiful picture of that those oils are beneficial for that care, and then also for the bonding and the emotional bonding as well. So I love that. Okay, for the sake of time, we're gonna quickly go through these last few things that are typical concerns and issues addressing with newborn that you guys, you talked about the anointing, Dr. Boyd. What about cradle cap or teething, diaper rash, runny nose, sleeplessness, all those kinds of things? You guys want to share about any?
You want me to just kind of blaze through them? Dr. Boyd, do you have anything you want to add to those? I can just blaze through them.
Go for it, Lindsay.
Okay, so cradle cap, get some coconut oil, okay, and like a really gentle, there's something called a scrubby brush. You can get it on Amazon, Google it. And just use a little bit of lavender or melaleuca and let that coconut oil sit and just sort of scrub it, and it'll just all come off. But it's like it's a very gentle scrub. Teething, you're going to want to make a roller ball with some lavender and some Roman chamomile and white fir. Just do one drop of each, and depending on your child's age, if they're a little older, maybe you could do 2 drops of each. Roller ball, massage along their jawline, okay? So it's going to calm and it's going to help with some pain. Another option too is you can use clove. Clove is a very hot oil, so you need to test it on yourself first. You're going to have to use a lot of carrier oil to dilute it, okay? So like a tablespoon with 1 drop of clove, test it on yourself first, and then put that in there directly on the gums, okay? Diaper rash, that same spray that I mentioned for the peri spray, the circumcision spray, that's kind of like my all-purpose rash and everything that ails you spray. So yeah.
I still use that in my home. We call it the fresh
lavender, melaleuca, frankincense, and helichrysum. And you can do, you know, in a 2-ounce spray bottle, maybe 5 drops of each of those. Top it off with your carrier oil and spray it on their butt, and that will really help, okay? Runny nose, we talked about breathe. I really like to add in some frankincense and some lime. Those are really good expectorants and decongestants. So you can do a roller ball, put it on the reflexology points on their toes for the sinuses. That's a great place to apply oils for babies. Just in general, the bottoms of the feet, that's a very safe place to apply oils, okay? And there's large pores on the bottoms of the feet, so it gets in their system and where it needs to go. And also just diffusing some breathe can help with that as well. Sleeplessness, you've got things like lavender, Roman chamomile. We've got a blend called Serenity that's great, so you can diffuse or again, apply to the bottoms of their feet before bedtime, and that's really helpful. Boom.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I know we went over on time, but if we want to allow just a few minutes, if you have any specific questions for Dr. Boyd or Lindsay, and then while you guys are figuring out your questions and you can type them in the chat, I still haven't figured out exactly how to allow you to unmute yourself if you have a question. So Lindsay, if you happen to know how to do that, you're welcome to do it. But what if somebody wants to connect with you, Lindsay, outside of here, how can they best do that?
Yeah, add me on Facebook. And Jim is Amy's husband. He did so amazing on all these PowerPoints, but he totally botched my name. So,
uh-oh. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So it's Lindsay Gunsalt.
Oh, I see that. And I didn't even catch it.
It's all good. I'm so used to it. So the correct spelling of my name, if you want to find me, it's Lindsey, and then Gunsalt, Gunsauls. I'll type it into the chat in case anyone needs to see it. But yeah, add me on Facebook. Let's connect.
Yes. And what about you, Dr. Boyd? If somebody wants to connect with you outside of the webinar, how would they best do that?
I don't know if there's a slide up on this, but my cell is 281-450-2415. Please text me first and tell me what it's about rather than call me, just because I don't tend to answer numbers I don't know. And that way it allows me time to get back with you. And then as far as an email, the main one I use for oil stuff is called Wellness Sisters, and that's Wellness and Sisters. So yes, there are 3 S's in a row at gmail.com.
I love it. No, we don't have a slide that has your contact info on it. So, so I put your email address in the chat as well. So everybody can have that. And,
perfect.
And Lindsay's spelling is, now I may botch it as well, but hopefully I typed it correctly, connecting on Facebook too. So.
Oh yeah, you did. And I typed it in there too.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Oh yes, you did.
And I just put Dr. Boyd's number too that she just gave you guys.
Oh, good. Yes, thank you. Any questions that anyone has before we go? Thank you.
There was one in the Q&A about cholestasis and induction from Danielle, and I would use endocrine for the cholestasis. Cholestasis is a problem where mom's liver is not getting rid of the toxins like it should be, and it actually can be quite dangerous for the pregnancy itself, the baby. So Zendocrine would be a good go-to. And then as far as the induction, getting that baby delivered so it doesn't become in danger, I would go with the Clary Sage.
Congratulations to all of you who are on that are pregnant and waiting to deliver your little ones. We're so excited for you, and we wish the very best for your healthy pregnancy and healthy delivery and healthy baby. And thank you all for joining us for this series. We will be getting the recordings and emailing out to those of you who are registered. So be looking for that in your email, hopefully this evening or early on Monday. Thank you so much, Dr. Boyd and Lindsay, for joining us in this. This was fantastic.
Yeah, Amy, I just saw a question come in.
Oh,
sorry. Bianca asked if there's anything for C-section care, and I think that actually is a great question if we want to just talk about that. Dr. Boyd?
Actually, I was just typing an answer. I would use the anti-aging blend, which was Immortelle, and diluted in a carrier oil. And honestly, for this carrier oil, I would probably use vitamin E just because it is so healing to new scars to help with that. And then all of the other oils we've mentioned as far as pain, etc., those will be absolutely fine for use after a C-section as well.
Awesome.
Thank you all. And we appreciate you joining. Have a great Saturday. And we'll see you the next time we do a great series. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.